And joining us now, Victor Davis Hanson. I just tweeted out his new piece, the silencing of the inspectors general, which you must read to get some context into just how the Obama administration treated its own ethics watchdogs and what that tells us about the supposedly squeaky clean Obama years. Because we need Obama back in office. That's what the Democrats are so much hankering for. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But VDH, it's good to talk to you. The Inspector General report is out. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about the narrative that has now shifted. They've tried pretty much everything against Trump, and his numbers keep going up. So now they say there's no substance to what he's doing. There's no philosophy. It's just a cult of personality, Victor.
Well, that has to, whether you like Trump or not, you just have to look at the data. So if you look at unemployment or GDP growth or jobless claims or people on federal assistance, or you look at the getting out of the Paris Accord or moving the embassy to Jerusalem. We could go on and on. That's just there. It's just out there. And whether you like it or not, it's achievement. And all the things they said that would happen, Larry Summers said if Trump was elected, we would never get 3% GDP growth. Paul Krugman said the stock market would collapse. People said if we got out of the Paris Accord, we'd ruin the planet. Our allies would forsake us. If we got out of the Iran deal, it would be terrible. And all that proved to be untrue. So we have two things to go by, the achievement and what people said at the time that was later refuted by facts. So they don't have a lot of credibility. And it's kind of tragic to watch people who are not empirical, who said they were intellectuals or academics or marquee journalists, because their reaction to Trump is to dig deeper and to get more and more emotional and not empirical. And they've disgraced themselves. And gosh, we're watching a Greek tragedy, because the entire bi-coastal domestic and foreign policy establishment seems to be almost unhinged. And we've never seen anything like this before, Laura. I haven't in my life.
No.
I've never seen Hollywood, entertainment industry, network news, Harvard University, where I am, Hoover, the magazines, Weekly Standard, National. I've never seen anything like it my entire life.
Victor, when you see just in really a matter of months the president managing to turn the dynamic on North Korea through a lot of negotiation behind the scenes with Pompeo and Joe Hagan and these other top officials at state in our national security apparatus, they were given explicit orders by the president to do what is possible to end this nuclear stalemate with North Korea, and obviously within some boundaries. And he said, don't be confined by the old rules, the way we have to speak, apparently, the diplomatic procedures. Do what you need to do to keep America safe. They went off and did it, and they came up with that 4-point. It's pretty broad, but they came up with those 4 points in Singapore. And now Pompeo says, well, we think that they'll have significantly disarmed by the end of Trump's first term. And the calumny that they are being, that they are being treated to by the left for this, and people who are supposedly all for peace, is really quite something to observe. It's amazing.
It is. And they did 3 or 4 things that nobody had ever done before, and that's why I think they're going to be successful. First, they really did have a credible show of force. And the combination of Bolton and Pompeo and Mattis, that sent a message to the North Koreans that Trump was capable of using force if he had to. The second thing is they got the message that the sanctions would not be relieved or abated once, it got medieval in North Korea. They know that they're going to continue. And third, they had to stick with China. Nobody had ever done that before, and that was trade. And then fourth, maybe a little bit more nebulous, but there was a credible threat that Japan and other countries in the region might go nuclear if this continued. So Trump used all that. I think as much as I don't want to criticize people who've been out of office, but there was a chemistry between Pompeo and Bolton and Trump that there wasn't with the prior people. And once he got them in there, they almost played bad cop. I mean, they were tough guys, and that allowed Trump to sort of talk nice about Kim. In the old days, I think Tillerson and McMaster were less confrontational, and Trump was the bad cop. But there was a new chemistry, and I think that was a lot more successful.
Well, and my brother who lives in Korea said that in these little towns and villages, Victor, that he goes through for various business stuff that he's doing, he said it was amazing to see these little shopkeepers all huddled over, around the little TV sets up in the alleyways and in the little, twists and turns of these villages, and how excited the people are there. I mean, he said it's like Christmas time there. They are so excited about the possibility of peace.
I believe it. I talked to a couple of Korean consular officials, South Korean, who called me the last couple of days. And whatever the narrative is in Washington or New York, their narrative is much different. Their narrative is they felt that they were under a sword of Damocles, and now they're not. And they kind of agree with Trump. They may not like him, but they appreciate what he's done, and they cannot believe it. And then I live in a very poor neighborhood of mostly Mexican-American people. When you go into town and talk to people, they just tune out all of the CNN, MSNBC thing, and they think he's a strong leader. And so there's two different realities. There's a reality of the news and the universities and the think tanks, and then there's this other news. And what I don't understand is very sophisticated people couldn't do this under 3 prior administrations, and very sophisticated people are unaware now that why it worked, or it seems to be working, and why people appreciate it. It's really a disconnect that it's much greater disconnect than anybody had imagined, even in 2016. We're watching the implosion or the destruction or the erosion of an entire bi-coastal, bi-party foreign relations establishment in journalism, universities, expertise. What is expertise these days when people can't get a deal like Trump did, or cannot get out of the Iran deal, or gave us the Iran deal, and then get hysterical without any solid evidence to back up their views? So this is really a weird moment in American history. The whole post-war order and the whole protocols and everything that was called expertise and normal is now, I think it's gone for good.
Yeah, I think, and that's really what has upset people. They've really upset people because I think for many years they had been expecting that at some point their titles and their PhDs and their think tank connections were really going to ultimately deliver some tangible result for the American people, or they thought the American people would just be satisfied with you're calling yourself an expert. And then this guy comes along, Victor, with no political experience, but an incredible gut for negotiation, and he's an impatient man. I know Trump very well. He's impatient for change, and when someone tells him it's not possible, he says, just watch me. That's just how he is. And
I think two things.
It's amazing to watch. I've got to tell you, it's amazing.
Yeah, he doesn't let criticism from the traditional establishment doesn't bother him. It almost encourages him. It's almost like he's Nietzsche. Anything that doesn't destroy him makes him stronger, and that's new. And then it's very strange that the Bush dynasty, the Clinton dynasty, Council on Foreign Relations, all these people have weighed in, and yet when you look at what they gave us, it was all predicated on the idea that the United States is so strong, the United States is so rich, we can take huge trade deficits with Europe, huge trade deficits with China, we can go into optional, we can do all of this for the world order. Half the country was telling them, we're not doing very well under your protocols, and we don't want to do it anymore, and we don't want to be the world staff. And Trump came along, and 16 other primary didn't see it, and Clinton didn't see it, and they still don't see it. And so I think that the world's been sort of like they played the world's upside down at the Battle of Yorktown. The world's turned upside down, and they still haven't got it.
One of the many complaints that we've heard is that Donald Trump doesn't condemn dictators. He is quick to criticize Justin Trudeau, quick to hit Theresa May, but when asked and pressed about the human rights violations that are hideous and horrific in North Korea, he kind of soft pedals that. What's your reaction?
Well, I think for me, the dividing line is whether a country has nuclear weapons or not. So when we deal with Pakistan got an atrocious record. When we deal with the former Soviet Union or Putin, or we deal with China, we sit down with some unsavory characters because they have nuclear weapons. North Korea has nuclear weapons. Iran doesn't yet. Cuba doesn't yet. Nicaragua doesn't. There's no reason to reach out to people like that. But once they have nuclear weapons, and once he inherited a situation in which, where I'm sitting right now in Palo Alto, is in theory within range of a very near future ballistic missile, Pyongyang, then that's a new reality. So you don't go there to get rid of an existential threat to the United States and start lecturing somebody on the obvious. That can come later. First thing is you can't have missiles pointed at the United States by an unhinged country, and that's what we do. We all do. Reagan did it, Bush did it, Clinton did it, Obama did it. The difference is that Obama reached out to thugs and sat down with them in Cuba and Nicaragua and Venezuela and Iran, or their emissaries, and he didn't have to because they did not pose an existential threat to the United States. But I think that China and North Korea are all in a different category once they have nukes.
Yeah, and again, you can't do everything at once. The idea of saying to this very proud people, and my brother always says, people don't understand how proud Koreans are. They're very, very proud people. Russians are very proud too, and I know that from all my experience in Russia, living there when it was Soviet, and then, of course, all the times I've been to Russia since. And these are proud people with, the history that was so difficult, so fraught with suffering. That it's hard sometimes for Americans to see it from the perspective of who they are and what they've been through. But I am confident. I'm confident that this new approach from Trump, which is shaking everybody up and drive, I think some of them are actually being driven clinically insane. VDH. I mean, I think they're like, well, oh my God, it's like the emperors have no clothes and I'm naked here, and so I got to lash out at all the cultists of Trump. I'll let you close it out.
Well, if he's successful, then what was defined as success is no longer success because they're antithetical to him. But the worst thing you can do with a person like Putin is to be ankle biting and to make fun of him and then to be weak. And that's what Reset was. It was to reach out and let him have Ukraine, Crimea, make fun of him, and then not be tough with him. And so they call him a class cut up, but they were not tough. And he had no respect for the last.
Zero respect for Obama. Yeah, zero respect for Obama. Victor Davis Hanson. We're actually going to put this interview on YouTube, our YouTube channel. We're going to post it also on Facebook. VDH, thank you so much. Can't wait to have you back on TV. Just a brilliant thinker, outside the box, but he saw a lot of this coming years and years and years ago. That's why he's the foremost, one of the most respected thinkers on Korea out there. We'll take a break. Don't go away.
The Laura Ingraham Show.